So a quick brief about our speaker, Jui. She's currently as a part of Chief Strategy Office, leads the teams such as People Agenda, Effective Manager, and Leadership Capability with career spanning more than 23 years in various roles such as product engineering, delivery, and program management. She has also led many large-scale enterprise ways of working, transformation for leadership and teams. She is represented at many national and international forums for her organization for the business impact that has been delivered as part of her role. An avid nature lover and a certified ornithologist, she spends her free time in nature excursions and photography. And we are actually very privileged to have you on board, Jui. And the stage is all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, to start with, I am not going to talk today about any leadership coaching or training. And I really love this, the name of this conference, which talks about practitioners, being practitioners. Yeah. Am I audible? Yes. Okay, so as I said already, it's more of an experience sharing, and so I want to start with a story, rather more than one story, which takes me back to my college days. And what I want you all to do is listen to these short stories, 3 short stories, and tell me what is a common denominator you find in that story. Okay, that's one of the ask from you. So just listen carefully, and I'm not going to play any presentation here. I was secretly, wishing that the projector doesn't start so that I don't need to start the slides. But yeah, the slides will still help you, but I would want you to hear me more than looking at the slides, because the slides will come to you. The stories will not come to you. So while I was in college, I was doing electronics and telecommunications from MIT Pune, and we had an extremely good professor. He was a PhD in electronics and fundamentally like a guru in electronics. But most of the time, we didn't find any students in his class. He was my project guide, so I have good regards for him. But it took a lot of effort to understand what he said, first of all, and to understand what, to get him, what he was trying to tell. So most of the students, you are in the second year of engineering and trying to understand things and electronics, the first thing which hits you is the electrons move from one direction to other, and the conventional flow is different. So I was stuck with this thought, like why it can't be from negative to positive, and what was positive, what was negative, all was going in my mind. And this PhD professor, there were many students who were not able to understand what he was saying. Okay, and there was another professor who was possibly, there in the organization, he has grown in MIT, like from a lab assistant, and he did work on himself. And most of the time he was a communications professor, and he used to spend time with us in the lab. Everything he taught us was through the lab. I hardly remember, being in a classroom with him, and the lab space used to be completely filled. Okay, so this is one story. When I graduated as a grad, my first experience was I was a web programmer, and my first experience was with products, especially implementing SAP for one of the largest towel manufacturing company, which is Welspun in Vapi. And I was quite fortunate because they believed in fresh grads who write good ABAP code, and they took us to Vapi, and in those days we used to call it as an on-site opportunity.
So it was very interesting to see, we were more interested in the Gujarati food in Daman and Vapi rather than, the plant. But there was one, my manager, he was a consultant for the SAP module for production planning and material management. So what he did was, he did not give me any requirement. I was feeling, I'm fresh grad, and there will be loads of documents of requirements which will come to me, and then I'll start coding. He said, forget it, Zui, let's walk the floor. We walked the floor, we understood, most of the members there on the material management, the managers there from Welspun were against this change. Coming back to what I remember what right now was said about, the comfort zone. So not ready to change to something like such a transparent system like SAP. So he showed me, you are going to deal with such people when you write your ABAP code and gather requirements. So imagine, then he took me to the production planning floor and he showed me how it is going to be, planning. There were huge stocks of raw cotton. And I said, oh, what program I'm going to write is going to affect the supply of this cotton. So it hit me that it's going to be extremely critical how I write a program in ABAP, because it's going to, the demand of the production planning is going to vary based on what I write. So it gave me a lot of sense of power as a grad, that something here, what I'm going to do on my laptop is, or rather they had desktops that time. I'm talking about the year 2000. So that was one story. And the third story, when I started my career, I wanted to move from as an ABAP programmer because I was still not near the system. And I was much into embedded systems as an electronics engineer. I always had that feeling that I should write, I should be more near the hardware. So I started working for developing electronic control units. And this was for, very interestingly, for diagnostics, vehicle diagnostics. And I was, that time, the manager myself. Then I said, let's not do the coding here. Institute, in Kothurud. I asked them to show the, get into the place. We had permissions to take our engineers there and how the safety systems are operating. And then we showed them the car crash. This is what will happen if you don't write clean code. And then my engineers were like, oh, this is a big impact. There were fresh grads, and I was, I remembered my grad days, and that was a good learning for me. And I did the same with my grads. Hello? It's working? It's working now? Okay. So now you heard all the three stories. I want all of you to think what's common. Yes? Practical aspect, yes, that's one answer. Close to the business, and there you are. Absolutely. All of the three stories has one common denominator, which is impact. You cannot replace anything to impact. You can do loads of coaching, you can do loads of training, you can do loads of conferences. But if you miss the traceability to impact, if you miss the translation to high-performing impact, everything, is just good in the books. The professor was quite good. He had a double PhD. But it didn't work. When I was a grad, it would have taken me huge of material to read, but it would not have worked the way it worked when I was actually seeing what is going to be the impact. And that's how even I kind of conditioned my teams. Always look at the impacts. So with that, I would like to take you to the main point. What we are going to look at today is any leader or manager is as effective as the impact they create with the teams. They could be the best managers. Go back. Yeah, this is the first slide. Yeah. They could be the first. I don't know if you are able to read it, but anyway, we will ask these questions to all of you. They could be the best. They could have won multiple awards as leaders. They could have gone through multiple organizational programs of developmental leadership. So far, they are not able to translate it into impact. They are just doing their work on the LinkedIn. That's how I look at it. And when I joined DB, this was the premise when I joined Deutsche Bank on which we started working. The whole story of leadership is around impact creation. Because when I was actually researching on the ground, and this is across all organizations which I worked for, what were the typical challenges leaders? There are certain challenges which leaders and managers face, and there are certain challenges which teams face. So you can see multiple leadership development programs don't help leaders to translate it to a traceable impact with the team. They miss the linking pin. Or, they don't know how to apply it. They have good intentions, but the application orientation gets missed. Or they don't see the tangible benefits. You know, how do I link what I have learned to the tangible benefit I can offer to my customer? Similarly, there are many more challenges. What are the day-to-day things which I can do with my team to make a difference? So I would like to also ask the audience, what do you think are the challenges of leaders around you, which you see on a day-to-day basis? Or you are yourself a manager and a leader, and what do you think is your challenge? Having a clear vision, okay? Anything more? The alignment to the culture and mindset of next gen. The cultural conditioning. Yes, we were raised by a different era of parenting style and schooling. They are raised on a completely different era. So that's a complete culture shift. Okay, what else? So let's add on those challenges here, right? So we were talking about the traceability. Now there is, these we don't learn in any training programs. We don't learn them in any coaching sessions. So then what is it, how do the manager or the leader really work towards an impact-oriented approach? As I said, it's not about personal development. It's not about getting coached. Those things are important in their space. But when you're working for an organization, or for that matter, even if you are a startup entrepreneur, you will always look for impact as the final outcome of your, whatever enablements you are doing. On the other hand, there are challenges for teams. What are the different challenges your teams have? I understand the vision, but I miss the traceability in my day-to-day work. How many of you go to the engineers on the desk and say, oh, do you understand what the CEO is saying? Do you understand what? I did that. I went to the table and asked the grads and even the experienced professionals who joined, do you know what is the next step, next 5-year vision for Deutsche Bank? They said, I know we have to do a global cloud rollout, XYZ, many things, but that's all. That's the tech center rollout thing. What about the vision of the bank? Do you know what is going to happen? Teams struggle with that approach. I miss the appreciation and constructive 360-degree feedback. How many of you yourself feel are in this space? Do you always operate on a 360-degree feedback? Do you get effective feedback? I'm not saying regular. There is a difference between regular and effective. You can get a regular feedback, but is that feedback effective to make impact? Again and again, I'm going to the same word. Similarly, I know that my manager is my manager, but how much I know my manager is my enabler? And does the manager know how it is to be an enabler? So the story, what I'm going to tell you today is of that. How would we change managers to become enablers? And that will not happen only through coaching or training, because that is something which is for their personal growth. The important part is the translation, which is mostly missed. What other challenges? What are the other challenges? We talked about the culture shift. We talked about, how about decision making? Do teams feel empowered to make decisions? How much are the managers and leaders of the world able to entrust decision making frameworks on the team? How many of them are able to make their team enabled on taking decisions? Or most of them make teams follow decision. What any other challenge you see in your teams? How many of you are here managing few big, decent sized teams? Okay. And how many of you are part of big teams? Most of you. Okay. So what are your challenges as a team typically? Yes. Motivation for initiatives. Okay. What else? Lack of trust. Yes, definitely. Interpersonal conflicts. Yes, the connection of my work to the day-to-day, my day-to-day work to the larger objective and goals. Yes. Awareness about the problem statement and the value they need to generate. So again, it is equivalent to, value is equivalent to impact. What value? And we are going to look at the tangible value. Good point. Teams miss that. What is that business impact? in whatever way you are trying to do the work, how is it translating into what the organization impact means? What value you are trying to bring? You have no understanding or very limited understanding of that. You know that your velocity has to increase. You know, okay, these user story need to go. But how will that change into this? What qualifies as a tangible business impact? What are those? There are some samples here, but there could be more. Better customer experience. Superman is asking if the customer experience was good. He flew that lady from somewhere. Or to increase the productivity, the managers decided to install solar panels on the head of the employees. And this is a classic case of, the senior management at gunpoint asking you to reduce cost for your domains and portfolios. And most important syndrome is lack of continuous improvement, innovation, because of the day-to-day work. So these are typically the tangible business impact we are trying to get. What else? What else beyond this? Yes? Risk reduction, very good point. So risk is a very fundamental, the risk appetite will depend based on, are you looking at a regulatory product? Are you looking at, a niche market segment? Are you ready to take risks? Or your risk appetite is limited? So that's also a very tangible business impact, how your, impact kind of, makes do with the risk part. What else? Commercially viable, scalable product. That's the tangible business impact we are trying to make. If we have a viable and tangible product, then we are looking at the right scale. So now what? You know the impact, what you need to generate. You know the challenges. Now what's the solution? I'm sorry, I don't know, the colors are not representing very differently here, but I don't much bother about the slide. So the what, I always talk about with my teams about the why, what and how paradigm. And most senior leaders, I have seen in multiple organizations, they dwell too much time, even the human resources, they dwell too much time on the why and what. Have you heard about the whys and whats many times, right? What's the vision? The town halls will talk about it. A lot of interface with the leaders talk will, you will have a lot of connects with senior leadership where this is definitely, what's my vision? What's the purpose of the organization? How the organization is moving? What is the organization expecting from you? As a leader, as a manager, what is expected? For example, yes, in my organization, there is a code of conduct and all managers and leaders are expected to behave as per the code of conduct. But how does that, happen? How do they bring that traceability in day-to-day life? So most of the time, the what and why is, very articulated very well, but the how is missing. So as a part of my own, for over years, this has been my forte as a part of the enterprise transformation and especially on the leadership and team transformation. While I leave the coaching and training part definitely has its own importance, my style of leadership transformation has always been driven by impact creation. The leader is as good as the impact they can create. Then we don't care if the leader is is not a pronounced leader, what is the designation of the leader or manager, it doesn't matter. What is the volume of impact they have created for the organization, that will purely define if we have transformed them. That's how it works. So what is a typical solution which I have observed a similar problem statement in my current organization, and we have definitely, that's the strategy we are working on currently, and it has been kind of in one of the most important spaces where organizations are understanding how impact is to be created. Now for that, the most important part, which is the practitioner outlook. Because most of the leaders and managers are typically tend to operate from a space which is different from the practitioners. Who are the practitioners on the ground? How do you, by the way, how do you improve as an engineer? Just a question for all of you. How will a developer or a DevOps engineer improve themselves? What do they do? Upskill. That is one part, that's the learning part. But on the day job, how would they improve? Feedback. Learning from failures. Yes, they will do this as they go, but for that, what they need to do every day? What's their everyday thing they need to do? Exactly. So they need to keep doing it better what they are doing. And what is that called in English language? Practicing. What do doctors do to become better surgeons? What do doctors or what do, the engineers do? They practice. And what is a practitioner outlook? To keep doing things every day with the same persistence. I remember what Anand sir said in the morning. Persistence is very important. And doing it, and then as you go, reflecting and improving, taking feedback on yourself as a leader, as a manager. So that practitioner loop, sometimes, because of, at what level you operate in the organization. Okay, I would like to do only strategy. When I was inducted in Deutsche Bank, it was very interesting. Okay, you are not going to be on the ground, you are going to be a strategy office. I said, I'm fine, but I am a practitioner by heart and by bone. And I will do impact first. I don't care what role you put me in. That was my words for them. If you're okay, then you take me in. That's how I'm going to actually work. And that's how I'm going to make you work. If you want someone like me to transform something, this is how I will work and this is how I will make you work. And it was interesting that, it's good that organizations feel good when they're challenged on this. And I'm happy in our space, this challenge is being, accepted, embraced, and looked at. Because you as a leader or manager, if you are AVP, VP, director, managing director, doesn't matter. You need to create impact, you need to show impact, and you need to be a practitioner to do that. So if you are going to do it that way, what do we offer? What is on offer? Okay, I'm ready. First is to bring the horse to the water. And the next step is the horse will start drinking water on its own, right? We can't make that happen. So what we can do is, at the heart of the whole story, what I'm trying to tell you is, be a practitioner and any role. And it doesn't matter in what role you are, but as a manager and leader, how many of you heard the term software craftsmanship? Everyone, most of you. Now, craftsmanship culture, we speak a lot, leaders speak a lot on craftsmanship culture. But do we also have a similar paradigm for leaders? Don't leaders have a leadership craftsmanship? What is craftsmanship or craftswomanship for leaders? It's art. Leadership is art, and you have to keep refining that art and have a scientific way also to do that art. So what is on offer is the toolkits. When you graduate, all of you know ITI in Pune, the institute which trains the electricians, plumbers. What if I train them phenomenally and I, send them to your house to fix your stuff without any tool bag? How will it feel? They will know the problem. They will know the solution. Can they solve it? That's exactly what happens with leaders or managers. They know the problem and they know the solution at times, but they don't know the how. So what is on offer is these toolkits. Now these toolkits are, you cannot just, for example, imagine a doctor or a surgeon or a highly skilled surgeon. What they will do, they will analyze the problem and then they will build their toolkits. They will make the operation theater ready with the right tools. You can't give the tools which are required for a cardiologist to a neurosurgeon. It's not possible. What a neurologist requires, he requires or she requires only those. So she will make sure that those are there before he or she starts the surgery. Similarly, for a leader, understanding what is the business challenge and what is the custom roadmap. So as a part of the effective leadership manager capability transformation, the theme which I lead in my organization, we look at building custom roadmaps, understanding the business challenge of the managers and the leaders, building the custom roadmaps for them by understanding, and in the custom roadmap maps, we weave in these tools. Now I'm sure that toolkits word is also intimidating you. What is it? And of course, you can't just have the toolkits and the custom roadmap. You need a platform, an enabling platform for them, right? So when someone is in the game of being practitioner, you need all the three dimensions to be covered. You need the right toolkits. You need to understand what's their roadmap because one size cannot fit everyone. And then you need the enabling platforms for them. And once that is done, then you see the practitioner is at play. You apply this theory to any profession in the world. You will find a same, answer to it. So this is a very, it's kind of a universal solution which is still custom. when you apply it to the engineering field, the medical field, or any field, even for a designer or art, someone in the art space, an architect or an interior designer, you will find the exact solution. And leaders are no different. Managers are no different. It's not about software. It's about the quality of a manager and leader, which is universal across all industries. And we have seen this approach, for me, in my experience, I have been applying this for last 10 years across majority of the continental Europe banks. And the BFS space, at least it has worked very well. Similarly, yes, manufacturing is a different ballgame a little bit, but yes, the toolkit part definitely, there could be the toolkits could be changed, but the approach still remains same. I worked in 3 major sectors: manufacturing, telecommunications, and BFS. So I have seen that most of this approach or solution as a generic, and then of course, as any practitioner, you could be a product owner, a product manager, you could be an agile coach, you could be a strategy manager, you could be in any role. If you have this approach as a practitioner, I think you can still go to the next level. So now in the context of what we are talking about is the practitioner toolkits mainly. And in the context of the transformation for the tech centers or the IT services or the customers with which I worked earlier, the different type of toolkits mainly, as I think these are all mapping the challenges, tracing visions to tangible backlog. So multiple toolkits, like how you can really visualize the vision to a way and the impediments in a way that you can make it more visual for the leaders to understand the problem statement and the team to also understand what's the vision, making things more visual in a way which they are co-creating. So these are not standard toolkits in terms of a Jira board or not like that. These are something which are very custom tools which the managers and teams work together. We are actually enabling them in different workshops to create this kind of toolkits. Building cross-border cultural and behavioral agility. A lot has been said and done on this topic individually. But how do you bring it under the toolkit purview is important. That's the important piece, because this is a bridging gap between if your team is really good in terms of skill, but not in terms of culture or behavior, then of course you need to apply this. So essentially what I'm saying is each of these toolkits, it's not like you have to build entire story at once. You need to identify as a leader, as a manager, or as a team member to see what is the challenge in your team, what is your roadmap to go, bridge that challenge, how that roadmap can be built, and what are the right toolkits which are, there are standard toolkits which are available in the industry, or the toolkits which you kind of, bring it to life. For example, standard toolkits, how many of you know Management 3.0? Excellent toolkits are available. Or liberating structures. So these are some examples of industry framework toolkits. Or culture maps. And I think I had also presented a session on culture maps earlier. But these are few examples of standard toolkits in the industry. We do these things, in silo. But how do we relate it back to the impact we want to create? That's where your creativity will happen. And it doesn't mean you need to be yourself a manager or a leader. You can be in any role. You can still have that conversations within your team, how you can apply this. And sometimes standard toolkits don't work for you. Then what? For example, how do I remove leadership ego? Can you tell me what is a standard toolkit to remove egos? Is there a standard toolkit to remove big egos of leaders? I was wondering how to really bring these leaders to ground. And I can't say it, you have a big ego, please reduce it. They will just kick me out. I love my job. I don't want to be kicked out. So you know the story of Birbal, right? You have a short line and you have a big line. So what you do is, you show them that there is a bigger line than you. So being a nature lover, avid nature lover, nature came to my rescue. So I actually invented a toolkit which called Learning Agility Under Nature's Mentorship. What I did was, I showed them role models in nature which are primitive animals, birds, other species who have phenomenal leadership qualities which are much greater than what you as a human being is doing. You are not different than the environment. You are not ahead of nature. When you put yourself against the canvas of nature, you are a very small person. Nature is excellent in the VUCA space. Who are you? You just started. Nature has been multi-million years in VUCA. right? We say VUCA, we say what all different terminologies. Nature is changing, adaptability, agility, behavioral agility. You said it, nature has it. It just took me a few research to bring leaders to this space and say, okay, now there is a bigger line, so you are a smaller line. And then it kind of, impacted saying that, okay, this behavior, if a dolphin can do, a dolphin can always innovate better than me, then I need to do better. If a wolf can lead much better from the back of the room, then I need to do better. So there are times when the standard toolkits won't apply. You will have to have your power of imagination, your power of integrating different toolkits and making a new toolkit. So there's a lot of creative space here. If you are committed to it, you can get better at it. Believe me, it's all about, again, practicing. I didn't do it first time right. I practiced over multiple years with multiple organizations, these toolkits, this phenomenon of toolkits, and the variation in toolkits. What is the problem statement and the custom toolkit, if I don't have it, I will invent it. I will not reinvent the wheel. If I have something, I'll reuse it. But if I don't have something, I will invent a toolkit. And the toolkit need not be very fancy. It could be anything which, can serve the purpose. Again, fit for purpose and what can make impact. So, and finally, each of the toolkit, when you are trying to apply your traceability to the business impact, it's not fancy. Okay, just let me try this culture maps with my team. If the team doesn't require it, you don't just throw it away for them. If the team is struggling to generate high productivity or velocity or commitment ratio because their cross-border issues are there, then you bring that toolkit to them. So when and what to apply so that the impact is created, that's again a innovation. Within yourself, you will keep doing as a transformation leader. And then the point is not that you should know it. The point is the managers should be able to apply itself. So these toolkits are given to the managers. It's a self-learning. They reflect on these toolkits. They improvise these toolkits together with the team. And they keep practicing. If the team is low on motivation, we will give them a toolkit which reflects on the motivation and how to improve the motivation. But it's for them to practice the toolkit. It's not for, the strategy office to really go there and do it. We will show them. We'll show them the how, but they have to walk the path. So with that, I think that's my last. The benefits, reusability and scalability across technology and business leaders, benefiting teams across all domains. It doesn't matter if you are in IT or any space. And baselining new ways of leadership enablement using innovative tools, and impact focused with clear ROI. Because that's the last vision you need always to keep in mind. So that's my approach, and that's my experience for years, which has worked across organizations and across leaders. So with that, I'll leave a couple of questions because I know we are in the last 5 minutes.
Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Please do scan the QR code and share your feedback for the session.
Thanks for the interesting toolkits and those parts, ma'am. But I have a question on sustainable part of it. How do you keep it sustainable?
Very good point. So as I said, coming back to the practitioner outlook, the craftsmanship culture, what do you do to keep doing the good thing as is? So these toolkits are not like one-time use and throw. It's more like, you have to keep practicing it to get the sustainable out. The sustainability is not something which is going to fall from thin air. Sustainability is persistence. You will have to keep doing it to get the right results and then improve on it so that you sustain even the changes. So when I said sustainable impact, it is because you have a practitioner outlook and because you are going to, be persistent in taking these toolkits again and again to your team, improvising if required. Tomorrow you are going to have a new business challenge. Are you going to use the same old toolkits with your team? It won't work. So the managers and leaders also need to revisit. So this is not a one-time exercise. This is a continuous feedback loop that will make it more sustainable all the time. So that's how it works also. Yes.
Hi. As a leader, I do innovate, I do use different frameworks, or I explore myself. So I have some idea or innovation in some implementing some framework for my teams. But getting the buy-in from the higher leadership has been challenge for me quite a lot of time.
I'm not
So-
talking about large frameworks here. These are small things which you need to do with your teams. If you run behind big binds, you will never do it. That's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is work on short impacts. Work on toolkits which are, and it should be in your circle of control to do it. If it's not in your circle of control, you will have a conviction. And see, how is your management going to give you the buy-in? Will they give you the buy-in on the launch of the idea or the impact of the idea?
Impact.
The answer is in that. If you are able to show what impact it is going to create, no organization or senior leadership in the world will stop you from doing it. Always start with the impact because they are interested in impact. They are not interested in your journey of what you are going to do about it. You show the results and you get it.
That's a great answer. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Any more
Thank
questions?
you, Zui. Yeah. Thank you for the session. We have almost reached the time, but please utilize the break time for any interaction with Zui, for any questions you want to ask. Before we conclude, I would like to request Navneet to felicitate Zui, and please be seated. We have a couple of announcements to make. It's really nice to see that experience sharing can help, people from, we learn from each other's experience. So thank you so much, Jui. Okay, so before we disperse for the lunch, quickly, please do not forget to visit the Agile Sphere if you haven't done that already. So we will be having that going on during the lunch time. Also use use this time for networking. And for the lunch, we have two sides, lunch arrangements have done. So one which you see on the right hand side, it is a small area. So please try to go to the bigger one on the left hand side. It has a bigger space. So you will have, enough space to have lunch. Thank you so much.